I never thought my own parents could break my heart like this. My name is Dana Coleman, 29, a marketing specialist living in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm 6 months pregnant with my first child. My husband and I had planned our dream wedding, a small, intimate ceremony by Lake Mendota, but everything came crashing down. For months, my parents had been pressuring me to come over every weekend to cook clean and run errands for them, even though I was exhausted, and my doctor had warned me to rest. They constantly compared me to my older sister, saying she had a perfect family and was responsible while I was nothing but lazy. I endured it all, hoping that when the most important day arrived, they would finally be there for me. Then the wedding day came. I stood in my wedding dress, heart racing, waiting for my parents to walk through the door. Instead, I received a text message they were on a beach in Miami with my sister's family halfway across the country. No call, no apology, just a cold, casual message as if nothing had happened. I called them over and over, my hands shaking, but they ignored every single call. My husband was furious and I was completely shattered. That betrayal lit a fire inside me, and I decided I would no longer let them walk all over me. I called a lawyer, and what happened next, let's just say they never saw it coming. Before I share the rest of my story, leave a comment and tell me what time are you watching this video and from which city. I'd love to know how far my story has reached and whose hearts it has touched. Growing up by Lake Mendota. I always felt like I was in my sister's shadow. My parents had a clear favorite, my sister Alicia, who lived in a tidy house in Madison's suburbs with her husband and 2 kids. They'd rave about her perfect family dinners, her spotless home, how she balanced work and motherhood without breaking a sweat. Me, I was the younger daughter, still figuring things out, trying to build a career in marketing while carrying my first child. My parents didn't see my efforts. To them, I was the one who hadn't made it yet. I met my fiancé Brandon at a tech conference in Milwaukee 3 years ago. He was a software engineer, calm and supportive, with a knack for making me laugh even on my worst days. We clicked instantly, bonding over late-night talks about our dreams, mine to run my own marketing firm, his to build an app that could change lives. After 2 years of dating, he proposed under the stars at a local park, and I said yes without hesitation. We were planning a small wedding by the lake, something simple but meaningful. I thought my parents would be thrilled, but their focus stayed on Alicia. Every weekend, my mom Joyce would call, insisting I come to their house near Lake Mendota. "We need help with the house," she'd say, her voice sharp. "Alicia's too busy with her kids." I was 4 months pregnant, my back aching, my energy drained, but I'd drag myself over, cooking pot roasts, scrubbing floors, organizing their cluttered garage. My dad Craig would nod approvingly when I finished, but never offered to help. They acted like it was my duty, like my pregnancy was just an inconvenience. Alicia never complained when she was pregnant. Mom would say her words, cutting deep. I'd bite my tongue, not wanting to start a fight. Brandon saw how exhausted I was. One Sunday after I came home from their house, barely able to stand, he sat me down. "You're pregnant, Dana. You can't keep doing this," he said, his eyes full of worry. I nodded, but part of me still wanted to please my parents. I thought if I showed up, did what they asked, they'd finally see me the way they saw Alicia. But each visit left me more drained, my body screaming for rest. My doctor had been clear at my last checkup: stress and overwork could hurt the baby. She ordered me to slow down, prioritize my health. I promised her I would, but saying no to Mom felt impossible. One evening, I tried to talk to Mom about it. I drove to their house, sat across from her at the kitchen table, and explained how tired I was. "I'm pregnant, Mom. I need to take it easy," I said, my voice shaking. She barely looked up from her coffee. "Alicia worked through both her pregnancies," she replied, her tone cold. "You're young. You'll manage." Dad was in the living room, flipping through a newspaper, pretending not to hear. I left their house that night, feeling smaller than ever, like I'd never measure up. Brandon was waiting when I got home, pulling me into a hug. "You don't have to keep proving yourself to them," he said. His words stuck with me, but I wasn't ready to give up on my parents yet. The next weekend, Mom called again, her voice clipped. "We're hosting a family dinner. You need to come early to help cook." I stared at my phone, my stomach twisting. I was starting to see the pattern. My parents expected me to drop everything, no matter how I felt, while Alicia got a free pass. I told Mom I'd try, but my heart wasn't in it. Brandon overheard and shook his head. "They're taking advantage of you," he said, his voice firm. I knew he was right, but I still hoped things would change when they saw how much the wedding meant to me. I wanted them to be there to celebrate with us, to show they cared. I didn't know then how wrong I was. As my pregnancy got tougher, my parents' expectations only grew. At 5 months, my ankles swelled and every step felt like a chore, but Mom wouldn't let up. She'd call almost daily, her voice sharp over the phone. "Alicia always helped out, even with 2 kids," she said one morning, her words dripping with disappointment. "You're not even trying to be part of this family." I gripped my phone, my chest tight, trying to explain that I was exhausted, that my body couldn't handle the constant demands. She just sighed like I was making excuses. Dad stayed out of it as usual, leaving me to deal with Mom's criticism alone. It stung to hear Alicia's name thrown at me again, like I'd never measure up to her perfect life in the suburbs. Brandon couldn't stand it anymore. One evening after Mom called to insist I help reorganize their pantry, he took the phone from me. "Joyce, she's pregnant. She needs rest, not more work," he said, his tone firm but calm. I watched him, grateful but nervous. Mom didn't take kindly to being challenged. "This is family business, Brandon," she snapped. "You wouldn't understand." He handed the phone back, his jaw tight, and muttered, "They're pushing you too far." I nodded, but part of me still hoped Mom would soften, maybe see how much I was trying. Dad, as always, said nothing, just sat in his recliner, eyes on the TV, avoiding the tension. Meanwhile, Brandon and I were deep in wedding plans. We'd booked a cozy restaurant by Lake Mendota with a view of the water and space for 50 guests. I spent hours picking out flowers, white roses, and lilies, while Brandon handled the catering, choosing a menu of grilled salmon and roasted vegetables. We sent invitations to family and friends, including Mom, Dad, and Alicia. I imagined them there smiling as I walked down the aisle, finally proud of me. Brandon and I worked late into the nights, addressing envelopes and confirming RSVPs, our excitement building despite my fatigue. I wanted this day to be perfect, a moment where everyone could come together, but Mom's attitude cast a shadow. During a call to confirm their attendance, she hesitated. "We'll try to make it," she said, her voice distant. "Alicia's planning a family trip to Miami, and we might need to help her out." I froze, my heart sinking. A trip to Miami. Now I pressed her for details, but she brushed me off. "It's just a busy time," she said, as if my wedding was an afterthought. Dad chimed in for once, saying, "We'll see what we can do," but his tone lacked conviction. I hung up my hands, trembling, and looked at Brandon. "They're choosing Alicia again," I said, my voice barely a whisper. He pulled me close, promising we'd make the day special no matter what. I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Would they really show up? My wedding day was supposed to be unforgettable. I stood in the bridal suite of a lakeside restaurant in Madison, my white dress snug against my 6-month baby bump, my fingers tracing the lace nervously. Friends adjusted my veil, their chatter filling the air, but my eyes were glued to the door, waiting for Mom and Dad to arrive. I'd imagined Mom fussing over my dress, Dad offering a rare smile of approval. Instead, my phone buzzed on the table. A text from Joyce lit up the screen. "We're in Miami with Alicia's family. Enjoy your wedding." My heart sank. Miami. They were lounging on a beach thousands of miles away while I was moments from walking down the aisle. No call, no regret, just a dismissive message. I stared at the words, certain it was a mistake. My hands trembled as I called Mom, the phone pressed tightly to my ear. Voicemail. I tried Dad, next same result. Alicia's line rang and rang, no answer. I sank onto a velvet chair, tears welling up. My maid of honor, a friend from college, noticed my face. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice gentle. I handed her the phone, my throat too tight to speak. She read the text, her eyes widening, then wrapped me in a hug. The room felt suffocating, their absence a punch to the gut. They hadn't just bailed, they'd picked Alicia over me on the day I needed them most. My grandma, Mildred Foster, was the only family member who showed up. She found me in the suite, her warm hand squeezing mine. "You're worth more than their choices," she said, her voice firm yet kind. Mildred, with her sharp mind and gentle heart, had always been my rock, especially since I was a kid. She promised to stand by me, her words a lifeline in my heartbreak. I wiped my tears, trying to steady myself for the ceremony, but the sting of betrayal lingered. How could my own parents do this? The ceremony began, and I walked down the aisle gripping Brandon's arm. His eyes were full of love, but I saw the tension in his face when I whispered about the text. The restaurant's soft glow and the hum of guests faded as I forced a smile. Mildred sat in the front row, her steady gaze giving me courage. But the empty seats where my family should have been burned like an open wound. I checked my phone during a break, hoping for a follow-up message, a sign they cared. Nothing. I dialed Mom again after the vows voicemail. Dad voicemail. Alicia silence. Each unanswered call deepened the hurt like they'd erased me from their lives. Brandon pulled me aside during the reception, his voice low and fierce. "We can't let them get away with this," he said, his hands clenched. "They ditched our wedding like it's nothing." His anger mirrored mine, his usual calm replaced by a need to protect me. I wanted to storm off to confront them right then, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. They'd just spin it, make me feel guilty. I'll deal with them my way. I said, my voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. Brandon nodded, his trust in me clear, though I could see he was ready to fight. Mildred joined us, her expression resolute. "You don't need people who hurt you like this," she said, her words cutting through my pain. "I'm here for you always." Her promise anchored me, a reminder that I wasn't alone. I looked at the dance floor, friends celebrating, glasses clinking, but my heart was heavy. My parents and Alicia had made their choice clear, abandoning me on the day that meant everything. As the night ended, I made up my mind. I was done chasing their approval. They'd crossed a line, and I was ready to draw one of my own. A week after the wedding, I couldn't hold in my pain anymore. Brandon and I were in our cozy Madison apartment, the walls lined with photos from our big day, but each one reminded me of the empty seats where my family should have been. I sat on the couch, my hands resting on my growing belly, staring at my phone, still hoping for a call that never came. The silence from Joyce, Craig, and Alicia was louder than any argument we'd ever had. I turned to Brandon, who was making coffee in the kitchen, and let it all spill out. "They didn't even care enough to show up," I said, my voice breaking. "How could they choose Alicia's vacation over our wedding?" Brandon set his mug down and sat beside me, his hand warm on mine. "They don't deserve you," he said, his tone steady but laced with anger. "We should cut them off. No calls, no visits, nothing." His words hit hard, a mix of protection and frustration. I knew he meant it. He'd seen how their absence crushed me, how their favoritism had worn me down for years. But I hesitated. Cutting them off felt final, like closing a door I wasn't sure I was ready to lock. "I just want to know why," I told him, my eyes stinging. "Why does Alicia always come first?" Brandon sighed, pulling me close. "You might never get that answer," he said softly, "but you don't have to keep hurting." That night, I couldn't sleep, my mind replaying the wedding, the text from Joyce, the unanswered calls. I needed someone else's perspective, someone outside the family. So I called my best friend, Tara Jenkins. She answered on the first ring, her voice bright despite the late hour. I poured out everything: the wedding, the Miami trip, the way my parents and Alicia left me feeling invisible. Tara listened quietly, then spoke with a clarity that cut through my fog. "You've got to set boundaries," she said. "They're walking all over you because you let them. You're about to be a mom yourself. Focus on your family now." Her words were tough but kind, a wake-up call I didn't know I needed. I thanked her, feeling lighter, like I could finally breathe. The next day, Mildred called. She'd been furious about the wedding, and her voice was firm when she spoke. "Grandma, I don't know what to do," I admitted, my hands fidgeting. Mildred didn't hesitate. "You need to protect yourself and that baby," she said. "I know a lawyer who can help you figure out your options. Call him." Her suggestion sparked something in me, a way to take control. I jotted down the lawyer's number, my resolve growing. Brandon was at work, but I texted him about Mildred's idea. He replied instantly, "Do it. I'm with you." I felt a surge of determination, a shift from hurt to action. I called the lawyer that afternoon, a man named Robert Klein who specialized in family disputes. His voice was calm, professional, as I explained the situation, not just the wedding, but the years of being sidelined for Alicia. "I want to know how to protect myself," I said, my voice steady. "I don't want them controlling my life anymore." Robert listened, then outlined steps I could take, like setting legal boundaries or exploring inheritance issues, especially since Mildred had hinted at family assets tied to her estate. It was overwhelming, but for the first time I felt like I had a plan. I hung up, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and empowerment. When Brandon got home, I told him about the call. He nodded, his expression serious. "This is the right move," he said. "They can't keep treating you like this." We sat together, planning our next steps, talking about our future with the baby. I realized then that my family wasn't just the one I was born into, it was the one I was building with Brandon and soon our child. Joyce, Craig, and Alicia had made their choice, and I was ready to make mine, starting with protecting my peace. 2 weeks after the wedding, I drove to my parents' house. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my heart pounding, as I pulled up to their familiar home near Lake Mendota. I needed answers. Why had Joyce and Craig chosen Alicia's Miami trip over my wedding? I deserved to know. I walked up the porch steps, my 6-month pregnant belly making each step deliberate, and knocked. Mom opened the door, her face tightening when she saw me. Dad was behind her, standing in the hallway, his expression unreadable. I took a deep breath and stepped inside, determined to get the truth. "Why didn't you come to my wedding?" I asked, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. Joyce crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "You're being selfish," she said sharply. "Alicia needed us. Her kids were sick and she was overwhelmed. You had Brandon, why make such a fuss?" Her words hit like a slap. "Needed them for a beach vacation," I pressed further, asking why they couldn't even call to explain. Joyce scoffed, brushing off my hurt. "You're always so dramatic," she said, her tone dismissive. Craig stayed silent, his eyes fixed on the floor, not once stepping in to defend me. His silence stung as much as Mom's accusations. I tried to stay calm, but my voice shook. "I was your daughter, standing alone on my wedding day," I said. "You didn't even try to show up." Joyce rolled her eyes, doubling down. "Alicia's family is bigger, her responsibilities are heavier," she said. "You wouldn't understand." I stared at her, realizing she'd never see my side. Craig shuffled awkwardly, muttering something about staying out of it, but his refusal to speak up felt like another betrayal. I turned to leave, my hands trembling, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I stepped onto the porch and checked it, expecting a text from Brandon. Instead, it was a notification from a mutual friend's social media. My heart sank as I opened the app. Alicia had posted a series of photos from Miami, her kids splashing in the ocean, her laughing with Joyce and Craig under a palm tree. The caption read, "Family time is the best time. Glad we could get away from the over-the-top drama of a certain bride." My breath caught. A certain bride. She meant me. She'd called me too, drama twisting my pain into a punchline for her followers. The comments were worse, strangers piling on, calling me selfish, spoiled, even a bridezilla. I scrolled through the photos, each one a dagger, my parents smiling carefree while I'd been crying in my wedding dress. I stood frozen, the phone shaking in my hand. Alicia hadn't just ditched my wedding, she'd turned it into a public spectacle, painting me as the villain. Joyce and Craig hadn't stopped her, hadn't even hesitated to join her in Miami. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. I got back in my car, my vision blurring with tears, and drove home in silence. Brandon was waiting when I walked in, his face falling as he saw my expression. I showed him Alicia's post, my voice barely above a whisper. "They're mocking me," I said. He pulled me into a hug, his anger palpable, but he didn't push me to talk. That night, I lay awake, the weight of their actions pressing down on me. Joyce's accusations, Craig's silence, Alicia's cruel post they'd shown me who they really were. I thought about all the years I'd spent trying to earn their love, bending over backward to please them. No more. I made up my mind I was done. No more calls, no more visits, no more hoping they'd change. I blocked their numbers, Joyce, Craig, Alicia, and deleted them from my social media. The decision felt heavy, but it also felt right. They'd crossed a line I couldn't forgive, and I was ready to protect my peace no matter what it took. A month later, Mildred called me with a plan. I was in our Madison apartment sorting through baby clothes when her call came through. Her voice was sharp, determined, the kind of tone that meant business. "I've had enough of your parents' nonsense," she said. "Meet me at the lawyer's office tomorrow." My heart raced. Mildred, my grandma, had always been fierce, but this was different. She was taking action. I agreed, feeling a mix of curiosity and hope. Brandon was at work, so I texted him the news. He replied instantly. "Go for it. Mildred knows what she's doing." The next day, I met Mildred at Robert Klein's office, the same lawyer she'd recommended before. She sat tall, her eyes blazing as she explained her decision. "I'm changing the family will," she said. "Joyce and Craig are out. You're getting the trust fund." I blinked, stunned. The trust set up by my great-grandparents held significant assets, land savings, a lakefront cabin. Mildred's reasoning was simple but fierce. Joyce and Craig's favoritism toward Alicia, especially skipping my wedding, was unforgivable. "You've been treated like an afterthought for too long," she said, her voice softening. "This is yours now, for you and your baby." I nodded, my throat tight, grateful for her support, but overwhelmed by the weight of her choice. We spent hours with Robert reviewing documents to amend the will. Mildred was meticulous, ensuring every detail was clear. Joyce and Craig would receive nothing, while the bulk of the estate would pass to me. I helped by organizing paperwork, signing where needed, and clarifying family details for the legal forms. Robert drafted a letter to notify Joyce and Craig of the changes, outlining that they'd been removed from the inheritance due to their actions. I read the draft, my hands steady, but my mind racing. Sending this letter would be a bombshell. "Are you sure, Grandma?" I asked. Mildred's eyes met mine, unwavering. "They made their bed," she said. "Let them lie in it." We finalized the paperwork, and Robert mailed the letter that afternoon. Days later, my phone lit up with a call from Joyce. I let it ring, my resolve firm after cutting contact. Brandon, home from work, saw the screen and squeezed my hand. "You don't owe them anything," he said. I nodded, but curiosity got the better of me. I checked the voicemail later. Joyce's voice was shrill, accusing me of manipulating Mildred, calling me ungrateful. Craig left a message too, his tone flat but angry, demanding I fix this. Their shock was palpable, but their words held no remorse, just blame. I deleted the messages, feeling a strange calm. Their reaction proved Mildred was right. They cared more about the money than about me. Tara, my best friend, heard the news from me and insisted on celebrating. She organized a small gathering at our apartment, inviting a few close friends to toast my new beginning. Mildred came too, her presence grounding the room. Tara raised a glass of sparkling cider, her smile wide. "To Dana for taking back her power," she said. Everyone cheered, and I felt my chest lighten, the weight of years lifting. Mildred pulled me aside, her hand warm on mine. "You're building a real family now," she said. "Don't let anyone take that from you." I hugged her, tears in my eyes, knowing she'd given me more than money, she'd given me strength. The gathering stretched into the evening, laughter filling our small apartment. Brandon stayed by my side, his quiet support steady as ever. Tara shared stories of our college days, making everyone laugh, while Mildred recounted tales of her own battles with family, her wisdom anchoring us. I looked around, realizing this was what family could be, people who showed up, who cared. Joyce, Craig, and Alicia were no longer part of my story. The trust fund was a bonus, but the real gift was the clarity Mildred's plan gave me. I was done living in their shadow, ready to focus on my future with my baby and Brandon. A month later, my life felt like a fresh start. Brandon and I had settled into a new apartment in Madison, a bright space with a nursery ready for our baby due any day now. The walls were decorated with photos of us smiling, a stark contrast to the pain of last year. Mildred visited often, bringing homemade cookies and stories that made us laugh. Her presence was a steady comfort, a reminder that family could mean love, not hurt. I'd sit with her on the balcony, my hands on my belly, feeling the baby kick as she talked about her hopes for us. "You're going to be a wonderful mom," she'd say, her voice warm. Those moments grounded me, filling the void left by others. Joyce and Craig faced the consequences of their choices. After Mildred's changes to the will, they lost access to a trust fund worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, land savings, a cabin by the lake. Word spread in their tight-knit community near Lake Mendota. Neighbors whispered about their absence at my wedding, and old friends pulled away shocked by how they'd treated me. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Joyce tried to spin the story, claiming I'd exaggerated, but no one bought it. Craig stayed quiet as always, his silence confirming their guilt. I felt no satisfaction in their isolation, only a quiet relief that their actions had caught up with them. One morning, as I folded tiny baby clothes, a text from Alicia popped up. "I'm sorry for everything," it read, followed by a plea to talk. I stared at the screen, remembering her post calling me a drama bride, her photos with Joyce and Craig in Miami, while I stood alone at my wedding. Her apology felt hollow too late after the damage she'd caused. I typed a short reply, "I need space." Then I blocked her number just as I'd done with Joyce and Craig. Keeping distance from her wasn't about anger, it was about protecting my peace. I'd spent years chasing her approval, but now I knew better. Looking back, I've learned hard truths about family and self-worth. For too long, I let Joyce, Craig, and Alicia define my value, hoping they'd see me the way I wanted to be seen. But their choices, skipping my wedding, siding with Alicia, mocking me online, showed me who they were. I learned to set boundaries, to say no to people who hurt me, even if they were family. It wasn't easy, but it was freeing. I chose to prioritize myself, my baby, and the people who truly cared. Brandon, Mildred, friends like Tara. They were my real family, the ones who showed up when it mattered. This journey taught me that you can't force love from those who won't give it. Instead, you build your own circle filled with people who lift you up. I'm stronger now, ready to be a mom who teaches her child to value themselves, to walk away from toxic relationships. To anyone watching this story, I hope you take away this: don't let anyone make you feel small. Set your boundaries, hold them firm, and surround yourself with those who see your worth. I'm grateful for every step of this path, even the painful ones, because they led me here. Thank you for listening. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you've navigated tough family moments or set your own boundaries.